Previously on Unscripted.
What's the longest you've ever waited on hold for like customer service?
Maybe 20 minutes, which is very long.
When I hit the 1 hour mark, I starting to get a little bit antsy.
A little bit?
You're listening to Unscripted with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip, today we're going to talk about the Netflix show Nobody Wants This. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about a concert that I went to in September. So I realized September is a long time ago, and so this is not a new story, but it's new to you.
It's new to me for sure, but I mean, we're talking about like a whole other year. Do you like keep notes about like things that you want to open the show with? Is this how this happens?
I do. And I've actually wanted to talk about this concert for a while, and I thought I'd have a chance, but I never had a chance until now. So I'm 99% sure you've heard of the band called Vampire Weekend.
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay. So they played a show in Toronto in September. I'm pretty sure they played a show in Montreal as well the same week. And the concert was at that venue, that outdoor venue that I like called Budweiser Stage. So what I do for those concerts, I wait until the last possible minute to buy a ticket because usually the ticket prices go down.
Right.
For this concert, I checked a week before the concert and the tickets were $17.
Wow.
Which is unheard of.
Them then. Yeah.
So I bought a ticket for $17 a week before. And then I checked the day of and the price was even lower.
Okay.
But like it wasn't empty. The venue wasn't empty. Like it wasn't sold out, but it also wasn't empty. So I'm surprised that the ticket prices were as low as they were. So a couple of funny things happened at the concert. I don't know if they're funny, but whatever. You'll be the judge. So they have a song called A-Punk, which is a really fast rockin' song. And they played the song and the crowd was into it and it was great. And then literally seconds after they finished playing the song, there's a fan sitting close to the stage. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I could tell what she was saying because the lead singer, Ezra Koenig, was having a conversation with her. So I could hear what he was saying.
Right.
So he says, after she screams something out, he says, "We literally just played that song. Are you not paying attention?"
So they played a song and she's screaming for them to play that song and they just played it.
Correct.
Oh,
so then
God.
again, you can't hear what she says, but then he's like, "You want to hear it again?" And so they played it again. So they played the same exact song twice in a row.
That's crazy. Is it a good song? Were you happy
It's
they
a
played it
great
twice?
song. No, it's a great song. I was thrilled. I think everyone in the crowd was thrilled.
That's so weird. I don't think of all the concerts I've ever been to, that's something that has never happened and probably will never happen again.
Right, which is why I wanted to tell you about it because it's rare.
Yeah, rare. Yes.
So, same concert, different story now. They come out to do their encore, and apparently I've never seen Vampire Weekend live before, but some of the fans are regulars, I guess. So they knew what to expect. I didn't. So they come out to do their encore, and what they do is they take requests from the crowd for songs from other artists.
Yeah, good. I love that.
So I didn't write down the list of songs that they sang, and they didn't play the full song of each one, but they like someone will yell a song and they turn to each other like, "Do we know that song? Can we play it?" And then they're like, "Okay." And then they play like a minute of that song and then they take another request and they took about 10 requests. It was really cool.
That is actually really cool, actually. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, all that to say is it was a really good concert.
So if they come back, I should go see Vampire Weekend, even if I don't really know their music?
I would recommend it, yes, and I would see them again if they came back.
Okay, we got a date next time. I'll go with you.
Great. So, do we have any listener mail?
Mailbag.
We have a little bit, yes. Kevin from Toronto, following up on our Only Murders Season 4 podcast from last time. He said, I love Season 4 and wanted to let you guys know that Selena Gomez is engaged and her fiance, his name is Benny Blanco. Have you ever heard of Benny Blanco?
I have not heard of him, but congratulations to him and her on the engagement. And thank you to Kevin for the email.
I haven't. I have no idea who this guy is. Apparently, he's a record producer, songwriter. Don't know, but I think she's a catch, so good for him, and I wish them well. That's the only mail we had about Only Murders, but I did want to follow up myself about something from last episode, because you mentioned that every episode had a title, like the episode title was the name of a movie.
Correct, an actual movie, yes.
Except for episode 9 or 8, one of them. I think 9.
I think it was 9.
Yeah. So I actually looked up all the names of the episodes, and then episode 9 is actually called Escape from Planet Klongo. And the funny thing is about that is, so in theory, every episode was named after a movie. It's just that this movie, Escape from Planet Klongo, is not a real movie. This is the Ron Howard movie where they sneak in and they're extras on the set, right? So it's that movie within the show. So it's actually kind of cool that they still name the episode after a movie, even though it's just a fake movie.
I wonder if they know the titles of each episode as they're recording each episode, or they decide this after the fact.
I wonder about that too. Is it the writer of the show who decides this? Is it like, because like for like newspaper articles, like if you read
the person who writes the article doesn't write the headline.
Very, very rarely do they ever write the headline. The headline's written by like someone at the publication who's trying to get views, clicks, reads, whatever medium they are in. So it's always a little bit weird, because sometimes you see these headlines and you're like, what the hell? And then you read the article and it's literally barely about what the headline says. It's like sometimes there's a disconnect there. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. It's probably the writer. I have to admit, it's probably one of the writers. So that's all we got from the mailbag, Josh.
Okay, we'll be right back after this to talk about Nobody Wants This.
You're listening to Unscripted.
I'm Joseph DeMedictis.
And I'm Ross Acetrullo.
And we're doing this podcast so we don't have to go home and get a real job.
Exactly.
That's right. And we're doing it to tell you about our pursuit of the dreams we've had since being a kid, being young, trying to get into the entertainment industry. Us, we're mid-career, sort of. We're kind of halfway broken in a way. But we both have these big dreams and big goals.
Aspirations, really.
For our careers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. This podcast is about the journey through the industry, trying to make it, but trying not to have to give up.
So listen to our podcasts on all the places you might listen to a podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We have our own YouTube channel where you can watch the video version. All the links can be found at you'llnevermakeit.ca. Here's hoping we do.
And now, back to Unscripted.
Okay, Skip, we're back.
So Nobody Wants This. This is a Netflix show that has one season so far. It stars Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. And just for like every other time we do an episode like this where we're talking about a show, I mean, this whole thing is going to be one giant spoiler. So if you haven't watched Nobody Wants This, go back and watch it and come back to this episode and listen, because we're going to spoil everything. This is a show that I watched like a while ago. Like literally like the first day it came out. Like the first day we're browsing Netflix, and then I'm like, what is this show? and then I look it up quickly and I'm like, oh, this sounds fun. Because when you read the premise, you're like, okay, this sounds kind of interesting. What the hell is it? And then, we watched it like literally in like 2 days, because the episodes are short, right? It's not like, it doesn't take a lot of time to binge this show. Then I told you about it a couple times, and then yes, finally you did watch it. So I mean, I like the show. Obviously, I recommended it to you. What do you think? Just first overall impression: good, bad, not good, medium.
Before I answer your question, you mentioned that you watched this right when it came out, right?
Yeah.
So if you go to IMDb, it tells you the date that a show came out. It tells you the date that each episode came out. Now,
right.
In this case, all the episodes came out the same day. And the interesting thing is, and we did not plan this show came out 2 days after I went to see Vampire Weekend.
There you go. Okay, perfect. So it's that long ago. Wow.
So your question was, what did I think of the show? I liked the show. I thought it was funny. Yeah. There were parts where I actually laughed out loud, and that's rare that I watch a show where I laugh out loud. I'm not sure how realistic, like what the possibility of this actually happening in real life is. I think it's low percentage, but nonetheless, it's a show that entertained me and distracted me for 30 minutes. So it was good.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's very, very funny. So obviously, like we're giving spoilers, so I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. This is a show where, Kristen Bell is like a podcaster. We can go into that whole tangent about, is podcasting a career, because somehow she makes a ton of money doing her podcast and she's about to sell it to Spotify in the show, right? So she's this very outspoken podcaster who does a podcast with her sister about relationships, and they talk very openly about their relationships and specifically about sex. And then somehow, well, not somehow, but it's actually a very funny scene how she meets Adam Brody, who happens to be a rabbi, and and they fall in love, like they're in a relationship. And so the show follows the twists and turns about this woman dating a rabbi. There's so many things like that. I like when I just said this, I can't believe the words that escape my mouth here when I'm describing the show, because it sounds so ludicrous, like honestly. But it really just kind of works because it's very funny. They're both so good in their roles. The supporting casts really are so important because, her sister, his brother, both sets of parents, his ex, his sister-in-law, like the whole family dynamic about like surrounding both of them is really what adds so much humor to the show. I think we can go off on a complete tangent about, like, for me, I had such a problem with him being a rabbi because there's just so many things that are so ridiculous about things that he doesn't follow, like being a Jew. Like, we're two Jewish guys, and when I see this guy who says he's a rabbi, he doesn't walk around wearing a kippah. They go to restaurants, he just orders food. There's no like consideration about, is the food kosher? Like I don't keep kosher and you don't, but like a rabbi does, right? There's a bunch of stuff there that just doesn't seem right. Like, even if he's a reform rabbi, it still doesn't seem right. It still seems like they just kind of ignored that, but that's just me.
So yes, the premise of the show is a little bit far-fetched, but as I said, it was entertaining and I did enjoy watching it, and I am looking forward to the next season. So you mentioned some of the characters in the show. Oh, you also mentioned that, the two sisters who have a podcast who have been approached by Spotify. I'm waiting for Spotify to call us. Yeah. Like, we do this show and no one has called us to do it on any huge platform and no one has offered us any money at all. So to your question, there is being a podcaster an actual career? I can say it's not for you and me.
No. And I mean, I take that further if you want to be. I know you're saying all that tongue in cheek, but like, I'm in like a whole bunch of different podcast Facebook groups, podcast Reddit groups. 1% of people who do podcasts make money, right?
That's about right, I guess. Yeah.
So, but I mean, look, we're talking about a TV show, and so they gotta it's not realism; it's just a show, right?
So anyway, you mentioned some of the characters. So I have to say that the two sisters, they have some great dialogue between each other. And I'm not just talking about when they're recording an episode of their podcast. Even before they start recording and after they're done recording, the dialogue is almost better. When the record button is off, they have some great dialogue. And I get that it's been written by a writer, but it seems very natural. Like, they, to me, seem like they could actually be sisters. Like, they act very well, the two of them.
The actress who played Morgan, who is Joanne's sister, Kristen Bell's sister.
Yeah.
She was just fantastic. Like, honestly, like, it was so good. And like you said, like, they have such an amazing relationship that when they have that big argument, they have this huge argument and they don't want to talk to each other. Like, they really, really are mad at each other. It kind of hurt me. I was like, man, it was so terrible to see them mad at each other because it just didn't seem right. Like, it didn't seem like it I felt it for them, Yeah.
Not only that, though, the reason that they were mad at each other was something that actually, like, didn't happen. Like, I mean, it happened, but Joanne was mad at Morgan because Morgan said something and Joanne thought that Morgan was lying. Morgan wasn't lying. Morgan was telling the truth.
But the thing about that is that the show did a really good job because they didn't reveal till sort of afterwards that Rebecca, the ex-girlfriend, we thought that Rebecca was like this. Well, we didn't think she was necessarily this sweet little ex, but in that situation, we thought that we didn't realize, the viewer didn't realize that how manipulative and devious Rebecca had been in that situation by putting that lie out there and knowing that Morgan would run with it, you know?
So actually, the girl that plays Morgan, Justine Lupe, I believe that's how to pronounce her last name, she was also in another show that I used to watch called Home Economics. It didn't last very long. You probably never watched it. So I recognized her exactly right away from that show, and I think she's a really good actress.
Do you know that Justine Lupe was pregnant the entire time they filmed this?
I had no idea.
Yeah, I read that afterwards, and I was like, then it kind of made sense because they dressed her in like flowy dresses, or you could sometimes see different shots where they're shooting her only waist up and stuff like this. So it's kind of interesting.
The other interesting thing is there's another actress who was in that show, Home Economics, who's also in this show, Nobody Wants This. It's Sasha's daughter.
Oh, the young teenage daughter.
Yeah. She was also in Home Economics. So anyway,
that's really cool, actually.
Enough about that show, but my two favorite characters in this show were Morgan and Sasha. You know, I know they're only like supporting actors, if you will, whatever they're called, but I thought that they were great. Not only when they were in scenes together, I thought they were great when they were in scenes together, but even when they were just without each other, I thought they were great in the show. And I couldn't wait to see them on the screen. I wanted to see them more than I wanted to see the two main characters, actually.
In a way, yes. And actually, it's interesting because the relationship between Morgan and Sasha, because they strike up this kind of relationship via text where they're talking to each other or texting each other, and no one else in the family knows. Like, obviously, he cannot tell his wife because she's going to flip, right? Like, she is going to flip, Esther. And then Morgan just doesn't want to tell her sister because I think she'll think it's weird. But their relationship is really, really cool. And I love how they call themselves the loser siblings, right? They're the loser siblings.
Of course, the scene where they meet, where all four of them are in their car, and then Morgan's text messages start being dictated out loud.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. And then another
over the
scene,
inside
car.
The speaker of the car.
So everyone in the car can hear what the text message is. And she was just texting her sister who's sitting right next to her.
Yeah.
So that was funny. I like the scene where Sasha's wife is yelling at him from the parking lot. And you know, all he does, anytime she yells or anytime she barks out instructions, he just listens to her and does exactly what she says without questioning it at all.
Well, I mean, I think that's why he seeks this relationship with Morgan, right? Because, look, I'm not saying he has a bad relationship with his wife. He has a great relationship with his wife in a sense. They know each other. They understand each other. They're a team. They're parents. I think it's just the way she is. And but he's missing something. And I think Morgan is able to provide like that, whatever. Like, sometimes he just wants to talk to someone and she just wants to yell at him, you know, like his wife just wants to yell at him. So, kind of crazy. It's really an original show. I think was the attraction for me. It's not like you're never going to see a show that's like this. Right. And I think we come at it because we're Jewish. Maybe we see it in a different way. Like, I'd love to know like what non-Jewish people think about this. Is it like I thought it was so stupid. Like, okay, they live in Los Angeles, right? Do you mean to tell me that like 35-year-old or 40-year-old, however old she is, Kristen Bell's character, Joanne, she's never met a Jewish person? She never knew about like that pork, like she doesn't seem to know anything. Like, even like the most rudimentary stuff, like Shabbat on Saturday. Like, we're not religious. We don't follow that stuff. But like you should know something. Like, she seems to know nothing. I just found that weird, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are clueless, who know nothing. Yeah. But I think I think they intentionally made the character clueless, or I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah,
Because they wanted to explain a little bit about
different things. Yeah.
the religion. And so, because some viewers out there might not know.
Yeah.
So
There's so many, like, I found that the show is full of, like, they're trying to do, like, stereotypes, especially of the Jewish characters. Like, like when he's there doing, like, the service in the synagogue, and then immediately after, every mom in the congregation wants to introduce their single daughter to him, right?
that was very funny. And that's like totally accurate.
Oh, I mean, it's not just, I mean, look, I don't know if every single woman that in a congregation wants to marry a rabbi. Like, that's like a big responsibility. And they do explain how the rabbi's wife is an important figure in the community. But, like, this is something that happens in everyday life, like there's a doctor. You go to the doctor, right? Oh, are you single? Do you want to meet my daughter? Like you go anywhere. Oh, do you want to meet my daughter? Like, this is like a Jewish mom thing to do, right? They want to marry their daughters off. I mean, it's a rom-com movie set over, in the form of like 30-minute TV episodes. And it's like the age-old story of like opposites attract, right? Like they are from different worlds, but somehow, it works. Like, he's never met a girl like her before. She's like outspoken, never mind that she's not Jewish. She's kind of an open book in her personal life. Literally, she talks about stuff in her podcast about her relationships. And of course, she's never met a guy like him, like, who seems to be like more of like a sensitive soul, and he understands her, and she can talk to him. I mean, that's because of like, that's who he is. And that's kind of what made him be a rabbi, because he's sort of like the confidant of, he's able to give counsel to his congregants, like, and he's able to kind of understand her, I guess. But it's an interesting relationship. It shouldn't work, and maybe it won't work. There is going to be a season 2, that's confirmed. Because they kind of left us with a little cliffhanger at the end. So
I'm gonna switch gears for a bit. There's one episode where there's a scene where they go to a food truck to buy a bagel, to get a bagel sandwich. So the food truck is called Yeasty Boys Bagels. It's an actual bagel truck in Los Angeles. It wasn't just created for the show. It actually exists.
Right.
So on the truck, I don't know if you remember, you had to either pause or read it quickly. On the truck, it says, like, all the things that they serve: bagels, lox, schmear, other shit. It literally says that on the truck. I thought that was very funny. I'd love to go
there. I how come we don't have a bagel truck here? Do you have a bagel truck in Toronto? No.
I don't think we do. I mean, the weather doesn't really, you can't really do it in the winter here.
And, just to follow up on your theme of like interesting names, then this is completely made up. When they go to play basketball, the name of his team, the Matzah Ballers.
I thought that was hilarious.
Hilarious.
And by the way, like I don't play pickup basketball. I play pickup hockey. But it's the same kind of thing. The guys show up once a week. We don't have uniforms. We play and then we leave. But they did portray that thing pretty accurately.
And then the other thing that they did portray is like, while you're there and in the lead up, like, you think that this game and this league is like really important, right? Like, winning and losing, like, this is important to you,
But not to anyone else.
But not to anyone else. Right.
So anyway, going back to the truck for a sec, the bagel truck. I looked them up online. They serve bagel sandwiches as well. And one of their sandwiches is called Game Over.
Oh.
So this sandwich has scrambled eggs, bacon, tomato, house-made cheddar jalapeno schmear on a hand-rolled cheddar bagel. It sounds delicious, actually.
So right off the bat, there's no way a rabbi would ever eat at this truck because they have bacon.
Exactly.
in the trucks, just the presence of it, and it means it's on the grill, it means it's on other touching other stuff. It's just never going to happen. So these are the kind of things that I had a problem with a little bit, because it didn't seem. I'm like, what kind of rabbi is this guy? Like, what kind of rabbi is he? I understand there's reform, but this doesn't make sense. But anyways, one of my favorite scenes in the show was right at the beginning when they meet at the dinner party. They have a mutual friend, and they go to meet at the dinner party, and she tells her in advance, there's this divorced guy at the party, and there's also a rabbi at the party. That's the men to choose. That's the men that she could choose from, you know? And of course, she meets him right away and just assumes he's the divorced guy, and he's very sensitive, and, you know, like maybe he's hurt in his relationship. And the actual divorced guy has this big beard, and she just assumes he's the rabbi. So like when they're at the table and they're like, well, let's ask the rabbi for advice. And then of course Noah starts talking, and she's like, why are you talking? And he's like, well, I'm the rabbi. Like it's very, very funny. That whole scene was just really done perfectly. I just
a few seconds before that, she's sitting right next to the rabbi, but she doesn't know that he's a rabbi. And she says to him, you know, there's a rabbi here? And he says, really? Like he pretends that he's not the rabbi. So that's, you know, what screwed her up. So another scene that I liked, there's a scene where Noah's wearing a coat, and she says it's a blazer, and he says it's a sport coat. And they argue about this. And I don't even know what the difference is between a blazer and a sport coat, to be honest.
For me, a sport coat is a term that is used by old men. like
I don't think I've ever said to anyone, I'm wearing my sport coat. I don't think I've ever said that phrase in my life.
It's a term from like another generation. Like to me, it doesn't like that doesn't work. Like that doesn't exist. That's like my father-in-law calls this so like you're gonna not even understand what I'm saying here. But like my father-in-law calls the sofa or the couch, he calls it a Chesterfield. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, because there's a store in Toronto called the Chesterfield shop where I purchased my couch, actually.
Yeah, he's like, oh, we're going to go shopping for a new Chesterfield. I'm like, what is he talking about? But like, it's the same idea. I think it's just a sport coat is like a term from another time. It's like out of time to me.
So later on in another episode, Joanne says that she created a LinkedIn profile to cyberstalk Rebecca. And she called it Fatigue Sisters Media. So turns out that is the real life company of the show's writer and creator, Aaron Foster.
I'm sure there's a lot of shows do that. They have little throwbacks and inside jokes, right? I mean, yeah. What do you think about the bat mitzvah party with the sisters? They go wild.
So that scene, that episode reminded me, well, a little bit of the movie Wedding Crashers.
Yeah. 100%, yeah.
There's another movie that I watched on Netflix that I don't even remember. I think Adam Sandler is in it, and I think it was filmed in Toronto. And I'm pretty sure there's a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah in that movie, and it reminded me a lot of that.
Well, Adam Sandler has a whole show, I think, about... Oh, no, it's a movie. It's also something, and bat mitzvah's in the title, right, of the show.
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the movie.
Yeah. I just love their dance. They're so cool. Like, honestly, everybody thinks they're so cool, the two sisters, especially like Esther and Sasha's daughter, right? Like, she really thinks Joanne's cool, and Esther has a problem with that, you know, because she's trying to be the strict mom, and here you have this girlfriend that she's trying to hate so much, but is so sweet to her daughter, especially at the party when she, you know, she hates her dress, and all, like, there's this whole arc when, like, Joanne's really cool to the little daughter, you know, like, and she really comes through for her, and I'm glad that Esther, as much as she wants to hate Joanne, she can't not see that, like, she sees that, you know, so yeah.
The two sisters are very cool, especially in that episode. Like, if you're a 13-year-old at a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah, or a 12-year-old, whatever, then you definitely think those two sisters are cool.
Yeah. There's lots of heartwarming parts, you know, like, especially around the daughter. Like, you know, like, Sasha is such a dumbass. Like, honestly, he seems like such a weirdo, but he really comes through for her when she's having a crisis with his daughter. I'm speaking of, you know, she's having a problem with a boy that she likes, and the mom's not home, and he's like, how can I help? And then his solution to help is absurd.
I was very worried. I was very nervous when he started creating a fake Instagram profile. I thought, oh, this is not going to end well.
Like, literally what he's doing is illegal. like it's, you know, like a man talking to a 12-year-old boy online pretending to be someone else. Like, that's illegal, right?
I was so scared.
But he really comes through for her, and I'm glad that the daughter is able to see like that the dad is really on her side, you know, and he came through for her because he seems like such a doofus sometimes, you know.
So I don't know if you know, apparently they were originally going to call the show Shiksa.
Yeah, I heard this. Yeah,
But a lot of people, and I may be one of those people, think that word is derogatory.
well, I mean, it literally just means a non-Jewish woman, but I think coming from a Jewish person, it does have a kind of negative connotation.
Like it's fine,
yeah.
like for somebody like me to say it to you, like if we're talking.
Yeah.
But if there's someone in the room that isn't Jewish, they might take offense to that.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I read that they just changed the name because not enough people knew what that word meant, so they didn't want to, you know.
That's fair.
Although nobody wants this, I think it's a kind of a good name for the show ish, but it's kind of a weird name for their podcast, no?
Well, the title of the show does not tell you anything about the show.
Right, exactly, yeah.
You know, like there's other shows, like another new show that I started watching on Netflix called Man on the Inside. That at least tells you a little bit about what you're about to watch.
Oh, did you start watching that?
I finished watching it, yes.
Oh, we have to do an episode about it.
We will. But this, nobody wants this. Like, what is this about? You have no idea.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And then, no, you have no idea. No idea. There's some stuff in the show that I just like, scenes that a lot of people liked when you read online. Like, I didn't love that whole episode where she brings the meat and cheese plate to her in-laws, like to Noah's parents, and it's full of prosciutto, which somehow she didn't know was pork. Like, that's another thing. I'm like, you don't know this? Like, what did you think it was? Chicken? Like, what did you think it was? Like, you know, like, honestly. And
but that's an important scene because then she catches the mom eating it.
Yeah, it's a very important scene. The mom eats it all, and then you know the big twist there is like you think that Joanne is gonna finally win over Noah's mom, who's this ice queen, right? Like she's so mean up to that point. And now that she's kept her secret and she seems like she's on her side and Bina, the mom, seems to like her, you know, at the very end, she just tells her, whispers in her ear, like, you're never going to be with my son. Like, you're never going to have him, you know, like she's still her enemy. Which, I mean, I think that's going to be a big part of season 2, I guess, like the struggle to win the family over. But
one thing about Bina, so in one of the earlier episodes, it's widely acknowledged that Bina can't even say the word sex. However, in a later episode, she seems to get over her aversion because she says it.
I don't know. Speaking of sex, what did you think about the scene in the sex shop where they're searching for the vibrator?
That was hilarious. I mean,
it
like
really was.
You're on your first date with someone, and that's where you go. I mean, obviously, to give some context for people who haven't watched the show, they didn't go there, and like that wasn't the point of their date. She had to stop by to pick up something at this store because they were going to talk about the product on the next episode of their podcast, and so she needed to like test it out or something. So that's why they went there.
Yeah, the Obliterator.
That's a funny name.
It's really like that's like kind of like what the show is. So the show is like typical rom-com. There's all these outrageous scenes where it's super funny and laugh out loud, and then it has like tons of heartwarming romantic parts, you know, like their first kiss, like I mean, when you read online, like most women are swooning over Adam Brody with that first kiss scene. They're in love with it, you know? And then also the way he speaks to her, like there's this one scene where like she's mad at him. I forget the circumstances. And he tells her like, Joanne, I'm on your side. I can handle you. Like don't run away from me. Like I'm here and I'm going to be with you regardless of what happened. Like it's really like I read like a review where they're saying like this show is like one of the first shows about like, well, not one of the first, it's one of the few shows about like relationships that like promotes like realistic expression of feelings, right? And like not like non-toxic behavior and people actually talking about stuff that they're feeling, you know, instead of just like ignoring it so that they can make it into a plot point where there's a misunderstanding. You know, like that's usually what happens in these comedy shows, right? So I think it's like, for me, I think that's interesting. There's a bunch of people online. There's like a little bit of backlash towards this show about the portrayal of Jewish women. Like you have Esther and you have Bina, and then you have Rebecca, and they're all portrayed in like pretty negative ways. And all of them are like the villains at certain times, you know. Esther, like you said, she just barks orders at her husband. Bina's nasty. No one likes her, and then she's basically makes an enemy out of Joanne, like I just explained, where she says, "You're never gonna have my son." And then Rebecca, I mean, obviously the scene at the bar with Morgan, we find out later how she lied to basically make a rift between them.
But Morgan was also lying in that scene.
Yes.
So
yes.
I don't fault Rebecca for that.
No, but right from the first scene of the show with Rebecca, where Josh, she finds the wedding ring, she finds the engagement ring in her drawer, and she basically proposes to herself and says, "Thank you for proposing to me. That was great." And she starts planning the wedding. Meanwhile,
right, I forgot about that scene. Thank you for reminding me.
So for me, that's like 17 million red flags. If you're Noah, you're like, this woman is just trying to take over my life right now, you know? Like, so, anyways, there's a bit of a backlash about the portrayal of Jewish women. I didn't really see it when I watched the show, because I just watch the show and I see the characters, and like, there's got to be villains, there's got to be heroes, and usually what happens is the villains end up having a redemption, right? Like, we hated Esther at the beginning, but we are going to end up liking her, and at a certain point, and you did end up liking her at a certain point. Bina is still a work in progress, because she's pretty unlikable. And then we don't know about Rebecca. Well, Rebecca actually has a moment at the end where she kind of opens up. I forget who confronts her. It is Joanne that confronts her, right, at the bat mitzvah, right?
Yeah, I think they do bump into each other, and they seem to be alone for like a minute, and they have a conversation.
I mean, it's also kind of more realistic conversation, because in a typical rom-com, they'd spill their guts, and then they'd hug, and they were like, now we're best friends, But that's not what happened at all, right? She's basically like, there's still a lot of anger between them and tension, which is normal, right?
The show does take the Jewish mom or Jewish woman behavior like to an extreme.
Yeah.
For those three characters that you mentioned. So, I mean, yes, there are Jewish women that are like that, but there are many, 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 many Jewish women who are not like that at all.
Yeah.
So
would you take your girlfriend to Jewish camp for a romantic weekend?
No, because I wouldn't go to a Jewish camp.
That Jewish camp was ridiculous. That was one of the only episodes that I was like, this is too weird. Like, this whole thing is weird.
I mean, when I say I wouldn't go to Jewish camp, I went when I was a kid. I wouldn't go there as an adult.
No. All right, so, this show, Josh, was number 1 on Netflix in 30 different countries. So that tells you something. Like, it's relatable. People relate to either Joanne or Noah, their relationship, the characters. Like, there is something about the writing, the characters, the show that people want to see, right? And in 30 different countries. So I think that's really, really kind of cool.
I'm surprised. I mean, I couldn't even name you 30 countries where people would be interested in this. So,
Who knows? Yeah. Would you recommend the show?
I would recommend the show. I have recommended the show to someone already.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to have a rating, I would give it 4 out of 5 obliterators.
Okay. Okay. We'll be right back after this with some final thoughts.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Hey everyone, Skip here. I'm really excited to invite all of you to follow my new account at Skip Cooks on Instagram and TikTok. I'll be sharing my love of cooking with recipes in the form of 1-minute music videos, all set to some of my favorite songs. Don't miss out, follow me, and let's have some fun in the kitchen.
Unscripted with Skip and Josh is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now, some final thoughts from the guys.
I do have a couple of final thoughts, Josh. Shrinking Season 2 I think I mentioned this to you. Maybe I even mentioned it last time. It's quite good, and you should watch it if you watch season 1. This is on Apple, though.
Okay, I did watch season 1, and I will eventually watch season 2.
You're going to like it. There's a little tie-in with How I Met Your Mother because the actress who plays Robin makes an appearance in this show.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah, so that's good. And then the other thing is because it seems like every episode, the last few episodes, we're talking about Nestea.
There's more Nestea news? How could there be?
So I just want to tell the listeners, and I could maybe post the videos. I don't know where I post them, but anyways. You came to my house, and we did a taste test.
This was like a month ago.
Yeah, we did a taste test between Fuse and Nestea, the original Nestea. I still have a bit of a stockpile of it. First, you went first, and you tasted both, and you couldn't really tell the difference at all. And you said the one that you said you thought was Nestea was Fuse. And then I went, and I also did the same thing. And I said, I think if anyone, this is the Nestea. And it was the opposite. So literally, there's actually... There is no difference. There is no difference. Like you said a few episodes ago, you read the ingredients, they're the exact same order. You read the nutritional values, they're literally the labels are identical in terms of what they contain and everything, all the sugar and all that stuff that's in it. And so I'm looking forward to when the new Nestea will come out, the correct Dr. Pepper version, and then we'll have to do another taste test.
Right, I haven't seen that yet, so I don't even know what the can looks like.
Yeah. If they were smart, they should make it similar to the old Nestea can, right? The blue.
But maybe Coca-Cola has the rights to that logo. I don't know.
We'll find out, I
or
guess.
that design. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Awesome talking to you about Nobody Wants This. I'm sure whenever there's season 2 of this show, we'll probably do an episode about it. It's a show we both enjoyed. And I'll speak to you next time.
Have a great week.